Okay, I'm going to explain to you what happens typically with the motorized power base over time. First of all, the ball winder accumulates fiber inside the gear system, and when that happens, it slows down. You can imagine if you had your fingers interlocked like that, and you had fiber in these crevices, and the fingers can't go in as far, so now they start to go out here. But basically, they get really tight in there. They can't actually back off like I just showed. They're physically connected to shafts and things. They can't go this way to accommodate the buildup of fiber. So what happens is they press harder and harder, and they try to turn the gears and the shaft and everything else, but they just can't do it. And it gets harder and harder. Fortunately, they're so strong they won't break, and that's the way we designed it. We didn't know, quite frankly, at the time, however, that they would accumulate so much dust and dirt, fiber debris in there. Um, and we're always looking at how we can prevent that fiber debris from getting in there. The problem is we have rotating shafts. They need space. You can't really constrain them in any way, otherwise they won't turn properly. So when you do that, you pretty much have to leave an opening. Once you leave that opening, that's where the fiber debris goes. I mean, there's no way around it. So the best practice is to periodically clean it. Again, a really busy yarn shop would have to clean it every 3 to 6 months. A normal yarn shop, normal yarn shop would wind yarn 1 to 2 hours a day. A really busy yarn shop will be 4 hours or more per day. That's a heavy load. That motor's running all the time. Uh, and the accumulation of dirt is a direct result of the number of hours of operation, because even though every yarn is different in terms of its qualities of fiber that it's giving off, nonetheless, the more you run the thing, the more fiber debris is going to build up in there. So busy yarn shops every 3 to 6 months, normal yarn shops every year, knitters at home typically every 2 to 5 years. That all depends, again, how much you're winding. So anyway, if you clean that out, replace your O-ring that goes around the flange. That's the black O-ring periodically, especially if you see any cracking. And of course, the clear belts that operate the motor drive and the ball winder, they will stretch in direct response, I should say, the fiber debris, and also how tightly you're pressing the against the black O-ring on the flange against that shaft that sticks straight up. If that's really tight, and if the fiber debris is building up, those clear belts will stretch prematurely. And when that happens, they become less effective. Now, once you clean the unit out, they could still work possibly, but once they stretch, they're pretty much shot. A good clear belt will last in a normal situation approximately 6 months. I have seen people use them for years at a time, but that's unusual. And I have seen shops that wear them out in 2 to 3 weeks. That's because they've got a heavy load there caused by the fiber debris buildup and by the O-ring being too tight. So if you want to save on belts, you've got to clean your unit out. It's like a vacuum cleaner. If you have a jam in the vacuum cleaner wheel, that's the beater bar there, they call it, I think, and that's got a lot of resistance. That's going to stretch the belt in a vacuum cleaner. You have to replace it, and quite frankly, in a vacuum cleaner, they typically break the belts. We don't break the belts as a rule, so that's one thing you don't need to worry about. But you do need to change them out, especially if you've just realized that when you opened up that ball winder to clean it, it was full of fiber. Chances are your belt's shot as well. So you need to clean it, oil it, get a new belt, and then you'll be back in business for the most part. So if you have any other questions, give us a call at 800-731-5648. Also, your motors eventually need to be replaced after about 2,000 operating hours. By the way, in 2,000 operating hours, a typical user will wind anywhere from 15 to 20 million, that's million, yards of yarn. That's roughly halfway around the globe, okay, if you stretch that yarn all the way up. So that's a pretty good run time, we think. You get halfway around the world on that little motor. That's not too bad. So anyway, if you have any questions, give us a call. We can always help you out, I'm sure. And our number here is 800-731-5648. Thanks.